On behalf of Crosscheck Media and Biz Talk Today TV, welcome everyone to the Money Path. I am your host, Todd Schoenberger, and joining me today is Lisa Nee. She is the managing partner of real estate services at Eisner Amper. Lisa, welcome to the program. Now, you are an advisor to some of the most sophisticated real estate investors in the country. Let's talk about commercial real estate. Do you believe that we're at the bottom of the cycle, or is there more downside ahead?
Well, thank you for having me today. Excited to get into some conversations. So if I knew exactly where we were in the cycle, that would be wonderful. People would definitely be using Eisner Amper. But I think when we're looking at trends of where we are, I think we know real estate sectors each have their own cycles and where we are within each of those sectors, depending on the class and the asset type. And so you got to sort of dissect each one by one. But certainly when we're looking at and talking to our clients about making investments or infusing more capital in real estate or evaluating our portfolio, we're certainly at a different point of inflection of reevaluating and looking to see long-term stability and what's going on with that asset in itself. And I think people are being a little bit more reflective as to what they're looking to invest their money in rather than reactive. And so that certain uncertainty, now that we have one big beautiful bill and people are understanding what the tax law is, understanding where we are with interest rates and valuations certainly has taken a little bit of a turn for people to feel a re-entry back into the market, if you were.
Okay, so let's expand on this a little bit then. So are you advising on new construction, existing, and therefore, if it is existing, what about vacancy rates? Because all we keep hearing about is that vacancy rates continue to expand, to continue to go higher. But are we seeing any type of thaw in the market though?
Yeah, so when we read the headlines about loans coming past due, so a lot of those loans, when you're looking in there, were either office in nature or they were going. Those loans are being serviced, but they're past due because there's no place or point for them to be able to be refinanced or taken down. So they're still servicing, and so when you're looking to say, are the vacancy, is it multifamily or an office? And so class A or A plus office, their vacancy rates are very, very little. Those are getting leased up. That prime space is doing really well. It's that B to C space where people are looking in office to saying, am I going to infuse more capital in here to get that to where people are going to want to make those amenities A and A plus properties? And so again, it's really piercing each one of those. And when we see vacancies, what cities are we talking about? San Francisco's doing great. It's leasing up. It's a hot market again. And so really trying to understand what pockets, regions, and the type of real estate. When we look at multifamily, everyone was talking about Sunbelt and Mountain. And so there was a ton of growth towards those. And so it slowed down a little bit with interest rates on multifamily. But with a housing shortage, that affordable housing sector and workforce sector is performing really strong because of the need for it. So again, it's not looking at those big headlines and really understanding what it is somebody is talking about within that sector or asset class as well.
So Class A, I get it. Fifth Avenue, New York City makes a lot of sense. West Palm, Miami, I understand that. Give the audience an idea of what a Class B, Class C looks like. Is that just like, say, the tech corridor in Washington, D.C., where there's really just sporadic buildings? I mean, can you give us a little bit of expand on this a little bit so we understand?
Yeah, I have to say, I do sit in West Palm, and if you look outside my window right now, the cranes are everywhere. There is so much excitement here in the Belt. So when you look at it, and I'm so fortunate that I get to sit here and see all this all day. And then when you go to other sectors of maybe a little bit sleepier or a sadder location and sort of saying, well, where's the capital? Why isn't it being driven here? And so there's a lot of programs, whether it's a qualified opportunity zone program or some of the other programs that we help clients try to move capital towards, and wondering, is that right investment for the capital infusion? So when you go to a center, an office center where you can see through the building because there's no tenants in there, it's what is the revitalization around that community? looking around is saying, is this our pocket where people are going to go to want to go to work? Is that, we know we're at a flex schedule. We know that people are not coming back to the office 5 days. Is that office building, that B or C, is it a B or C because it just needs capital, or is it a B or C because of the location around it as well? And it needs capital. It doesn't have the amenities where the dog park or the bike park is downstairs, where the cool, pool table, ping pong, and the rooftop bar is nearby. What is it for that? Is it making it where the airflow in there isn't, the high ceilings? So what is it within that office building that isn't making it that class A? Or is it the area, or is it the office itself, and how much capital has to be infused? Am I doing it to protect my investment, or is it a real capital infusion that you really need to renovate and gut that building? And so it's kind of a mix of a conversation, is to say, is this a community that is going to be revitalized, or rents are going to be pretty much stabilized at 26 a foot, regardless of how much money I'm going to put into that building?
And when you're having those conversations, what are the needs that people want? I mean, I get you want to have a house that's close to the office park, and you want the restaurant, and you want the bar. But is it even greater than that? I know, for example, in Arizona, they are building an entire complex for the Arizona Cardinals. It's apparently this hundreds of millions of dollars being poured into this vacant area in Arizona that's going to really expect this economic development boom. And we saw that in Washington, D.C., when Abe Pollin actually built the arena for the Wizards and
Yeah.
the Capitals. We saw Chinatown expand, but you're not seeing it in colder areas. Buffalo's one of them. They have a new stadium, $2 billion, and they're not expecting anything except a coffee shop next to that stadium. I mean, is it important to have all of these amenities that close by, or can people just pick and choose?
So I think it's understanding, sort of the nature of that community itself. So Buffalo is a football institution town, and so they know that they're going to get their fan base. Something in Arizona, you need to create that area. You need to create that vibe for them. Also, Buffalo, how many months of year are you going to be able to have that vibe, that outdoor living
Yeah.
experience out there? When you look at the mountain states, the mountain regions, and I have to be really careful with that because I keep forgetting there's mountain regions everywhere. It's where you're getting that lifestyle. And so it's a lifestyle choice of where people are going to want to have that outdoor, indoor living. And so some communities are going to fare really well, and some really just are going to go for that. Let me where I'm going to have the great time for the stadium and during the game, but I know that I'm not going to get that cool coffee shop that people are going to go to 7 days a week. Arizona might get it. It's a livable area. You can put a community around it because of it. It's a different type of lifestyle people are looking at, and the investments that are going in around it to get all those other retail resources, that walkable retail that people want.
Yeah, that's a very smart answer.
It's what's
So,
happening here in West Palm. I mean, when you walk through City Place and you walk through, you're going to get that walkable, livable area,
yeah.
even during hurricane season.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And plus, outdoor retail shops in San Antonio, Texas, they built this amazing place called La Cantera, which has all high-end retailers. They tons of, and I don't think they have really anything that's vacant there, but it's an outdoor mall. And even as hot as it gets, I mean, it's a place to go. People, it's a destination, and I understand that. I can see that happening in Florida. Let's turn the page to the Big Beautiful Bill Act. Are there any types of advantages with that act that are helping commercial real estate investors?
Yeah, it fared, so shockingly, it fared very well to the real estate community. So it made certain some of the things that we were not sure if they were going to expire or not, which is bonus depreciation and some of that, which really all of that is meant to encourage and revitalize and put capital back in so that those developers get, those deductions back. But you want people infusing capital into their buildings and into other spaces. And so that bonus depreciation certainty. Now, again, that's a federal benefit. A lot of the states have decoupled or opted out of bonus depreciation. So you've got that mismatch where you're going to get a deduction federally, and you really could get an add back in the state. So it's really doing some planning and understanding where you're doing and making those investments. Affordable housing is another great area that did well. There were more credits allocated to states for low income housing. Again, it's the state itself that allocates those credits to the developers. So there's more credits out there. The states are the ones who actually parse out those credits to developers, and then making sure that those communities are being benefited from where those affordable housing units are being built. Another one is qualified opportunity zones. They codified that, which always had bipartisan support, which is also a deferral of capital gains into these types of communities or projects that allowed for, again, these were areas that needed revitalization under the census tract. And now the governors themselves are able to designate zones that benefit from these types of projects. So again, lots of federal incentives under one big beautiful bill, and the states have a lot of control as to how some of these things get regulated and really used within their state.
So it seems like there are a lot of tailwinds then. I mean, does that explain the optimism surrounding that sector, or is there still more to do?
So there's always more. I mean, there's always more to do. People always, don't they always want more when it comes for tax write-offs and deductions? Yeah, why
Right.
not? That's why I have a good job. Um, but there's always, understanding it and making sure that this system is working properly. Reporting is really big, is making sure that some of these programs that did get rolled out, what is the reporting requirements behind it, and making sure that they're doing what actually needs to be done for those communities and that the dollars are coming in. That's the key, really, when you're looking at these programs, is how are they getting monitored and how are they getting executed?
So are investors, are they more tax driven or market driven when their decisions are being made?
It's funny. So we always tell people, look at the economics first. The taxes, any benefits or incentives that you get should be a bonus. And really look at the economics of the deal, and it should be driven by that. And there's when you talk to developers, there's a lot of passion too in those projects, a lot of
Yeah.
pride in those buildings and in those communities. And so sometimes taxes, should really just be another bottom line number, and everything else should sort of work its way in when you're looking at whether or not to make an investment. Yes, make sure it's tax driven, and we'll work through all of that with them. But there are a lot of other factors that we try to talk to our clients about to make sure, like, if it's the right investment from an economic standpoint.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about the makeup of these investors. Do you see more money flowing in from private equity? Is it family offices, institutional investors?
Yes.
Okay, all of the above.
It's interesting with
That
the
was easy.
the banks, with the bank regulators being a little bit, the banks kind of took a little bit of a step back. So you see a lot more capital coming from other types of places. So it can come from a family office doing lending. We've seen a lot of private credit funds, debt funds out there in the market, which is private equity. So private equity coming in on both the debt and the equity side. And then the institutions, it's interesting. The institutions are sort of a little bit further back right now because they're still waiting for their money back from the last round of debt financings that they had to step in that haven't been played out. So we're seeing it a lot of more on the private sector with family offices and private equity funds.
So I mean, this sounds great. I mean, this sounds like the heyday then. So so what can go wrong? I mean, what are we overestimating right now when it comes to commercial real estate?
So again, it's about penciling out, you really doing the math and making sure that the investors are savvy, that they're really smartly looking at these deals to see how proof they are. And AI is out there. We didn't talk about that at all. And so really looking to say, how is AI going to change the nature of the tenants of the building, whether it's whether it's commercial or residential? How is AI going to improve the efficiencies of this? And what is the financing going to look like if something were to happen? And so I think people are really taking a step back and saying, I want a little bit more understanding and transparency, and asking those questions and saying, how could this look if certain scenarios have happened? And is the underwriting is getting a little bit more difficult because the investors are getting more sophisticated, which is great.
Okay, you opened up the door to AI, so I'm going to ask, how does Eisner Amper incorporate AI into the decision maker or the advising to these types of deals?
Yeah, so we've opened up AI everywhere within Eisner Amper, both in what we're doing externally and internally. And we're embracing it. And so it's giving us more resources to help and advise our clients, and having it be that it's still about personal and relationships. We're using AI as a tool to help, elevate us and elevate our advisory skills. Externally, it's also giving us a lot of great market intel that we can see and pull in data that we weren't able to pull in before as to consumer trends, whether in any of our sectors and in industries, not just real estate. So it's really fun to see where those sectors and trends are being shown with using AI as a tool.
So
Can't be scared
consumer,
of it. Got to embrace it.
oh yeah, you definitely do. I mean, anybody that stays away from it is just going to be left behind. So, and
Exactly.
they probably think the internet's a fad. But the with that though, with consumer trends, I want to expand on that a little bit. Are you looking at consumer trends, meaning that these are individuals, what they want, what they are looking to do, as far as the individual workers that are actually occupying that commercial real estate?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of that and the who. What
Hmm.
what types of companies are occupying the space? So you mentioned those commercial buildings that in DC that have, a sector or a hub of a specific industry. And so really evaluating who's leasing, who's leaving, what types of companies are really making up the tenant. And what types of individuals on the residential side are looking to go to pockets of areas that trends. And always, I still follow the U-Haul heat map of saying where are people moving to and moving away from, understanding those cities and sort of looking at patterns of where people are, moving, investing, wanting to live, want to work, and how they're spending. What are they spending on? Leisure travel is doing remarkably well. People are out there and traveling.
Yeah, no, that's great. So what about malls, the traditional mall? I mean, I understand in colder climates you need that mall, but even there these seem you keep hearing about dead malls. Malls are vacancy, people are just leaving left and right. In Baltimore, for example, probably the marquee mall in Baltimore and Maryland is in Towson, Maryland, at the Towson Town Center. Always was known to have higher end retailers, and every day it seems like you hear about a store that's leaving. They're just vacating, and it's quickly turning into one of these dead malls. Is there a need for malls anymore? Do people even want them anymore? Do they just want that opportunity just to walk outside? I mean, I'm trying to get an idea because I don't see a lot of them being built.
Yeah, I think you positioned it really well. That open air, necessity-based retail, it's really great. And when you're looking at strip malls, there's not a lot of new strip malls that are being developed. They're being redeveloped, and there's still a
Yeah.
revitalization with that strip mall. And again, grocery anchored strip centers are different than that. But when you look at that mall and large format retail, it's a different story. So a select A mall with really, really great trade areas around there are going to perform. But that class B, class C enclosed mall, it's going to be some structural decline, with limited capacity capital available to put into those malls going forward. And again, when you look at the retail in those three different sectors of open air, strip mall, grocery anchor within there, and that closed in large mall format, I think that's going to be a decline with a lot of limited capital going into that area. Absolutely.
So in the colder climates, do you see less money flowing into these types of deals? Because we keep hearing about the migration to the warmer parts of the country for obvious reasons. But I mean, is it just from an investing standpoint? Are people just staying away from those northern states?
I think it's going to be limited. I think there's going to be some, it's going to be conservative underwriting. I think it's going to be a shorter span that people are going to be willing to have their money invested into those types of facilities for all of the reasons that you had said before. I think it's going to be a tougher market, those larger types of enclosed malls in those areas. Absolutely.
So you're advising me. I'm one of
Oh,
Amper's clients, and you're telling me what is one area of commercial real estate that I should really focus on right now?
so I don't think it's one area. I think within each sector there's always a darling, and within each sector in each region there's something interesting happening in each one of those focuses and sectors, and finding the right um, developer, owner, operator to help you with those areas if that's not your area of expertise is really the key there. And so really looking at that niche based owner, operator, developer and hearing their story and what they want to do, that's really where the play is. The broader picture of just, when people were doing multifamily all over and it couldn't miss because interest rates were so low. I think those stories are harder to tell. It's the where am I looking at the location? What type of building is it? Who are my tenants going to be? And really understanding and doing some really good underwriting of the projects that people are willing to invest in. So I would say there's a darling in each sector and in each class. I really would. I don't know.
Okay, now I like that. So, final topic for you. I'm sorry, final topic for you then. Give
Sure.
us an idea on the data centers, AI data centers. Is that an area that you focus on?
Yeah, so I
Or
can
that is
definitely
your
talk about data center. So there's a lot out there, right? There's a lot of people talking about data centers. So when you look at this, it's really the most capital intensive growth story right now. I mean, it's there. And it's unprecedented demand because we haven't really seen something like this from the cloud providers and the AI infrastructure build out. And I'm sure I'm using all the wrong words, but that's sort of the words that I would use. So there's an enormous institutional capital that's going towards there. I think BREIT deployed billions of dollars into this, and tons of people are coming in there. The opportunity's there, it's real, but the underwriting is really complex, and I don't think people are really appreciating and understanding the underwriting. So when you're looking at it, it's a different risk factor than your traditional commercial real estate. There's power availability, there's the grid infrastructure, cooling technology, who are your tenants? Because you only have a small number of pool of tenants, construction costs and the escalations with that. And here's the key is the pace of technological obsolescence, how quickly that is going to become obsolete. Claude in itself keeps making itself better when I ask a question. It keeps replacing itself when you go through it. So that obsolescence within that data center is also happening. So I think making sure that the investors who are entering this space have that operational expertise to really understand the risks, all the ones I just mentioned, and really know that there's a huge gap between the power and land entitlements and the people coming in with those resources. And so it's probably going to be build to suit arrangements with those really high creditworthy tenants. There's going to be a lot of capital going in there. But I think it's going to be a really, you got to be really smart when you're going in there and understand all these risk factors with your eyes open on this. I mean, I think when you look at who's going in there, it's what's the pension funds, sovereign wealth, infrastructure funds. So those are people who are looking at it more like a utility rather than a real estate play. And so you got to see, who's entering the market and why, and what type of returns are they looking for? That was a long
how involved?
answer.
No, it's a great answer. But how involved is Eisner Amper in that process? I mean, are you working? Are you one locating the data center? Two, you have to find the funnel of the electricity, that energy that's going to flow into it. Three, you got to work with the government, state and local government. Four, you got to work with the citizens in that area who none of them like these data centers because they have higher utility costs. I mean, it's very involved, like you said. How involved are you guys though?
So we're working with our clients on planning and structuring those investments, not on the day-to-day will come in and if they need some operational day-to-day back office support, happy to do that. Luckily, we're on the structuring, the advisory, the back office side of being able to support those types of companies and funds that are willing to do the build out and investment within that infrastructure.
You are right though about the when you start thinking about the expiration date on some of these data centers because those Blackwell chips they retail for 14 grand a pop, but they don't last forever. You always have a new one that's coming out. I wonder if there's a secondary market for these chips. But
Right.
the point being is that it costs money to actually have to revamp all of those over time,
Correct.
and you guys are involved. Just last question. I'm just curious. Are you working with any of the private credit companies or private credit firms for financing on these deals?
Yeah, so we're working for a lot of our private credit finances, all of the real estate deals. And really, again, it's that underwriting discipline that they're really looking at. And some of them are short term and long term, which obviously the interest rates will change within how long the term loans are going to be and the risk involved. And operational real estate, whether it's data centers, senior housing, any of those operational car washes, real estate, it's a different underwriting process with those credit funds than it is looking at a traditional office or multifamily. So it's really understanding the nature of how that real estate is being used, looking sort of forward as to who that tenant, the credit worthiness of the tenant, and the longevity and AI proof of what that tenant is going to be. And so those credit funds are really doing a different type of underwriting than they had done in the past.
With the credit funds, with any other industry in American history, whenever it expands, we tend to see people kind of cut corners. Are you seeing any type of regulatory problems that you might be envisioning for private credit down the line as it results or pertains to these data centers?
I think you're going to see this no matter where we were in the life cycle of anything historically. It's that, when people cut corners, they cut corners. But when they're doing really their true due diligence and they're taking their time and spending money where it needs to be spent, it's generally well spent for some of the due diligence work on it. And so we've seen this over and over again. It's a pattern that repeats itself. The more people, even on the credit side, have their own internal diligence and regulatory requirements, the stronger that they are when they're out there doing these loans and these credit facilities.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Lisa, this was great. We got to have you back. This is a conversation we could continue for hours, and I do appreciate you joining me, and I hope it was enjoyable for you too.
It was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you having me on today. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. So on behalf of Lisa Nee at Eisner Amper, go to EisnerAmper.com to learn more. And I'm Todd Schoenberger. Thank you once again for joining us on The Money Path. Coming up tomorrow at 12 o'clock, Financial Compass with Ms. Schneider. She will be live. She's going to be breaking down that oil trade. You will want to hear what she has to say. Until then, take care.
Access real-time data and intelligent analytics exactly when you need them. Get the right data at the right time. Learn more at quotemedia.com.